Okay, so I'm ready to give my review of Kachess Lake Campground after walking the entire thing, almost 200 spots. So it's funny how you're going in and your, situation on the ground are oftentimes at a rift. By the way, as we walk by the Box Canyon sign, there's 183 spots, so a little under 200. I went and just looked at all of them. I like to get as close to the lake as possible as a criterion for mine because I'm a kayaker. I want easy access, entrance and exit into the lake. So based on my initial research, I was thinking Thetis or Box Canyon might be the way to go. But I gotta say, a little underwhelmed by both of them. Thetis has got small, close together, poor privacy lines. It's not right on the water. Probably not very practical to drag a kayak from there to the water. In Box Canyon, it's too open. There's no privacy lines. There really isn't a site that's like a money shot that gets you like perfect lake access. Doesn't exist. The one that's closest, I did a review on, but there's so much debris in the water around it that I don't even know if you can access it with your kayak. So, a little underwhelmed by both Thetis and Box Canyon. But actually my favorite place, the one area I was most impressed by was one wasn't even on my radar, Gale Creek, spot 1. That was epic. That's definitely the spot I'm going to try to get in the future. Probably shouldn't say that because that probably, if anybody actually watches this, then that would hurt my chances of getting it if other people go for it too. But spot 1 at Gale Creek was epic because there's a huge shoreline right there. I'd say if you're interested in like a shoreline situation, Gale Creek is definitely the area you want to be in. It's the only one that has like a proper vast shoreline. And spot 1 was the closest to the shoreline. In fact, it was super close. I would absolutely camp there and drag my kayak the 100 feet or whatever it is onto the beach, directly into the water. So that was pretty perfect. It's also got pretty good privacy lines. There's a giant thick tree downed that kind of helps break it up and make it feel more private. The only downside is the beautiful day use area is kind of next to site 1. So if you have like big groups, they're kind of double wide picnic tables designed for large groups, day use picnic areas. So you could have a big family reunion or corporate retreat or whoever the heck is using those, and that could be noisy. So that's the downside, is it's not like, I've seen better sites at different campgrounds in different states. Kind of the perfect storm is when you get a site that is right on the water, so you have your own entrance and exit into the water, but has like perfect privacy lines where trees, are around you on all sides, and it's kind of like around a corner. That's kind of like your money dream scenario, like your perfect camping spot. It's pretty rare to find. There are a few of those sprinkled across the state, but they're few and far between. But that said, I'm not trying to knock Kachess Lake Campground. I'm pretty impressed overall with the feel of the area. It's quite beautiful. What I'm trying to do is identify base camp areas. Like, I like the model. I got 2 models. One model is you just go backpacking, which in case you don't care about campgrounds. But my motto on backpacking is you only go backpacking if you have to. Meaning I don't backpack areas I can reasonably day hike. Because I think backpacking is less fun, just because I don't like having to carry a heavy pack. I like the nimbleness of being able to just walk at my full speed. Because I'm fine to throw down a 15, 18, 20 mile day hike. If I can throw down a 15, 18, 20 mile day hike and avoid having to backpack it, I will always do that. Because I will have a better time not having to, carry a 30, 40, 50 pound pack up 3,000, 4,000 feet. That's not as fun. So my mantra is, if you can day hike it, day hike it. If the only way you can get to the lake or the alpine lake or whatever you're trying to go is by backpacking, then I'll backpack. But it's out of necessity, not out of choice. And I do enjoy it, but I think I need it to be necessary in order to get to the reward. If I know there's another way to do it that's easier, then I'm not going to want to do it. So that's my mantra for backpacking. So some of my trips are backpacking trips, and I've got, I think, 8 planned in Washington. I live in Oregon, in Central Oregon. I'm just analyzing Washington. I've got eight backpacking trips planned in Washington to kind of capture I think some of the best areas. But my other model, so I walked through some snow. Today is May 21st, 2022. It's 6 days before this place opens. Still some snow on the ground that I've been navigating, but I was driving through the area. I thought I'd come by and do a check since I knew I was planning on coming back here. My other methodology is I like to car camp as a base camp. So you come to like an established campground, that way you don't have to haul your stuff. You can bring it in your car. You don't have to haul it on your back. And you just basically camp like normal at an established campground. And then I like to bring my kayaks, and I like to kayak the lake. And then I like to use it as base camp for a bunch of epic day hikes in the area. So as it relates to Gale Creek Spot 1, I would take that spot if I can book it on recreation.gov. So I said the area opens May 27th through September. I'm sure it's already booked for the whole year at this point, but what I want to do is book that spot, come, and then I would actually probably wake up when it's still dark, maybe throw some glow sticks on my kayak or something like that, and do like a very early morning pre-sunrise kayak, maybe be in the boat when the sun rises. Hope I can capture some beauty that way. Then I'd go back to my site and I would leave for the afternoon and go do a day hike in the area I want to do. That way I'm still getting the day hike pretty darn early. So I always want to do those as early as possible to avoid the crowds in the sun. And come back to my site maybe late afternoon and hope by then that the noisy, day use picnic area people are starting to die down. And then I'm sure by evening, definitely by dark, they'll be gone. You can enjoy the site peacefully by the lake and maybe repeat the process the next day. So it's a long way of trying to explain that because of the proximity to the lake and the beauty of the area, the loudy day use people don't really deter me because I'm going to be gone for the lion's share of the day on a day hike anyway. So kind of how I model it. You model it how you want to. I think a big part of the fun of wilderness adventuring, which I am into, is the planning, the strategizing, deciding where you want to go and how you want to approach it. I think maybe I'm just a logistics individual, so I get a kick out of all the planning just as much as the actual hikes and experiences themselves. So bottom line is, I started this by this long rambling session. You can tell by now, but I do not ever plan out what I'm going to say in any of these videos. I just kind of stream of consciousness, impromptu. The gist of it is, I would view this as validation of my own two eyes doctrine, because if I was booking blind on recreation.gov, I probably would have picked a spot at Box Canyon or Thetis, and now that I've been here, that's not what I want to do. I want to pick spot 1 at Gale Creek, and that wasn't even on my radar from my research. So there's always a little rift between your research and reality. I've definitely found that. That's why I created my own two eyes doctrine, because you could sit there for an hour or two and be the most fastidious researcher in the world and really think that you've cost-benefit analyzed, the whole thing and come up with the perfect strategy. I've done that. And then you come out and actually see the area and you realize it's a totally different situation, boots on the ground. So that's why I just, I do some research. You got to do some front-end research, but I don't even necessarily put my effort in that. I put my effort in coming to see places because that's where the value is. So I would have booked Box Canyon or Thetis, but I'm not too blown away by either one of those. So now I know that my favorite section is spot 1 at Gale Creek. And I think Gale Creek is the prettiest side. I would say there's a pretty cool little shoreline hike next to Fetus that had a couple good lookout areas. And I would say there was some decent views at the Box Canyon shoreline. So it might be worth, if you're staying in Gale Creek, hiking over and just checking both those out for a little part of an afternoon. But that isn't going to be very time consuming and just a little add-on. So my go away is spot 1 at Gale Creek is the magic spot. And when I book it, presumably next year, kind of funny, at recreation.gov, it's typically a rolling 6 months. And typically, people know where the best spots are. So the best spots are the ones that are taken. So this season's already entirely booked. at this campground. So it's not necessarily for my schedule. I probably wasn't going to come here this year anyway, but I happened to be going through the area, so I figured that's maybe a pro tip. Be mindful of what areas you plan to go through in the future. And if you're on a trip, a business trip, or just visiting family, whatever it is, go check out a campground that you intend to stay at sometime in the future, even if you're more than 6 months, a year, 2 years out, because it'll pay for itself just doing that, because then you know exactly, you've been there before, you got familiarity, and you know exactly what spot you want to stay at. And then when you come back, you're kind of already acclimated and you know what you're getting yourself into as far as expectations. So I would highly recommend that methodology. And I've officially left Kachess Campground. It's now a quarter mile behind me, and I am heading back to my car. I didn't want to drive this last section of snow, just to be on the safe side. I mean, I probably could have made it, but why risk it? The last thing I need to do is get stuck out here in the middle of nowhere. So I just decided to park. I think I parked like 2 or 3 tenths away at the last section that didn't have these snowbanks. Decided I'd just walk the last few tenths. So I've left the campground. I got a few tenths to walk to get back to my automobile, and I will be on my way. I've actually got a bunch of business things I need to do today, so the end of the fun part of my day, and on to some more serious things.